on our priorities for Scotland. The First Minister will take questions at the end of his statement, and so there should be no interventions or interruptions. I call on Humza Yousaf, First Minister, up to 20 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Just a few weeks ago, I couldn't have imagined that I'd be standing here as First Minister, setting out the policy priorities and indeed the defining missions of the government that I lead. Being First Minister is, of course, not without its challenges, it's fair to say, but notwithstanding that, it is, of course, the honour of my life. And in my very first speech to this chamber after the result was announced, I made it clear that the people of Scotland's priorities will, of course, be my priorities too. And I've been clear from the outset that I intend on governing in the interests of the whole of Scotland. And I hope that today's policy prospectus that has been published is a demonstration of that. In setting out our course for the next 3 years, we are acknowledging, as we must, that Scotland faces genuinely difficult challenges. Our economy and our public services are still recovering from a global pandemic. We're in the midst of a cost crisis made worse, of course, by the UK government's economic mismanagement, which is harming people and hurting businesses right across the country. And we need to play our part in addressing the global crises of climate change and indeed nature loss. And we are also, and this is worth stressing, facing the most difficult public spending environment that this devolved Parliament has clearly ever seen. The inflationary shocks created by a hard Brexit, a global pandemic, the war in Ukraine, disastrous decisions taken as part of the UK government's mini budget, they've all placed great pressure on the public finances. Our ability to deal with that pressure is being constrained by UK government spending decisions and, of course, a lack of borrowing powers. In fact, the cost to Scotland of Westminster control, the cost of not being independent, has never been clearer. UK living standards have stagnated for 15 years. Indeed, the fall in living standards this year and the next is, according to the IMF, UK is amongst the worst performing of any major economy this year. And the disastrous impact of Brexit, supported, of course, by both the Tories and Labour, is biting hard. And as a result, we have to make really tough decisions about our priorities. And I'll be apologetic about ensure that we free resources in the great can. We'll go into the constraints of devolution. Where we can go further, I absolutely will. But for all the significant challenges we face, and they are significant, we also know that we could build on the important successes. Scotland currently outperforms the UK on unemployment rate, with the unemployment rate for men over 16 at the lowest on record. NHS waiting times, our court backlogs improving following the pandemic. And despite the public spending climate, we have expanded free childcare provision and introduced the game-changing Scottish Child Payment. And of course, Scotland continues to have a highly skilled workforce, world-class universities and colleges, and huge potential in some of the economics of the future. The Scottish Government is today publishing their policy prospectus, New Leadership, A Fresh Start for Scotland, which will set out how this government, the government I lead, will address our challenges, build on the success of the past, but also capitalise on our strengths. It sets the key aims, the key deliverables achieved in its second folio. Green Party colleagues. Throughout the next 3 years, we will report routinely, regularly and transparently on our performance against these aims and against these outcomes. The report also emphasises that this government's work will be defined by 3 distinct and interdependent missions. Those missions, centred on the principles of equality, opportunity and community, require us to tackle poverty, to build a fair, green and indeed a growing economy, and to improve our public services. They will be central to our efforts over the next 3 years to improve the lives of the people of Scotland. The first mission, based on equality, is that we will continue to tackle all of will protecting people as far as we possibly can from the harm inflicted by the UK government policies and the ongoing cost of living crisis. That means we will often choose to benefit those who need it the most. That's one reason why the very first action I undertook as First Minister was to increase the Fuel Insecurity Fund to £30 million. Over the next 3 years, we'll also invest a further £1.3 billion in the Scottish Child Payment. We will further develop our social security system and ensure it continues to treat people with dignity, with fairness and respect. We will expand provision, reduce the number of children who go into care. We'll keep our promise to those who are care experienced. And we'll work to ensure that drug deaths reduce over the next 3 years. We recognise us to our aspirations of a fairer country. We'll continue to work with local government to reduce the number of people living in terrorist and subject to, of course, Parliament. We will legislate to secure a new deal for tenants and to introduce duties to prevent homelessness. We will invest to make homes and buildings greener, and we will continue to deliver affordable homes, the majority of which will be for social rent in all parts of our country. We'll also publish an action plan for housing in remote, rural and island areas. I can confirm today that this plan will include up to £25 million from our affordable homes budget to allow suitable properties, including empty homes, to be purchased or indeed long leased and turned into affordable homes for key workers and others. We'll also engage with the public to explore how best we can use our existing taxation powers to deliver the most progressive taxation system in the UK and achieve the government's 3 missions, which I talked to today. Scotland is a wealthy country, but that wealth is not distributed evenly. To tackle poverty, we need to be bolder on taxing and the redistribution of wealth. And academics, anti-poverty campaigners, those with lived experience. I'll also invite, of course, opposition colleagues, as I believe tackling poverty is a shared priority for us all. We'll continue to support equality, inclusion and human rights too. We'll implement more of the recommendations of the National Advisory Council on Women and Girls. Presiding Officer, I take great pride in being the first Minister from an ethnic minority background. I know my rights are very much interdependent on the rights of others. The government I lead will not only protect the rights of minorities where possible, we will also advance them, particularly for those that are the most marginalised in our society. During the parliamentary term, we will bring forward a human rights bill to incorporate within the limits, of course, of our national standards on economic, social and environmental. That is, of course, in stark interest, in stark contrast, I should say, to you, government, that policies during their hour of need. We will continue to support those who come to Scotland fleeing war and indeed fleeing persecution, and will continue to support the many thousands of people who come during the last year. For as long as Scotland is their home, they will be welcomed here and they will be supported. Presiding Officer, through these actions and many more, we will make significant progress towards making Scotland a fairer country during the next 3 years. However, we know that our ambition to make Scotland fairer must go hand in hand with our work to make Scotland more prosperous. That's why the second national mission is based on the principle of opportunity, using all of the powers we have to support our purpose, to help businesses thrive and to maximise the opportunity for a fair green economy. A crucial part of this is about making a just transition to net zero. We will never do to oil and gas workers in the north of Scotland what Thatcher to our mining and steel communities. We will take the workers of the north. We will take the workers of the North East and indeed the whole of Scotland with us on our just transition journey. We will harness the huge potential of the green economy in Scotland. The ScotWind programme on its own, for example, offers the potential of £28 billion of supply chain work based in Scotland. Our renewable energy resources will also help us to develop a new hydrogen sector, which is why a focus for the next 3 years is to lay the foundations for a hydrogen supply chain in Scotland. Excuse me. We will also continue to support innovation and entrepreneurship through policies such as our investment in new tech scale hubs. We hope one of the leading nations in Europe for business startups. We will also develop centres of excellence for sectors such as technologies, health and science industry, and to support economic growth and ensure that wealth is far more evenly distributed. We will continue to invest in skills so that people are able to take advantage of new opportunities. We'll encourage growth in every part of Scotland by working with local and regional partners. In setting out our plans for the economy, I also want to make a broader point about the government's relationship with our business community. Presiding Officer, I'm the proud son of a business owner. In fact, just this month, my dad's business turned 40 years old, and despite our family efforts to the contrary, Mr. Yousaf Sr. has no plans to retire just yet. But businesses, and small businesses in particular, are the backbone of our economy, and government support for business is essential for the delivery of a well-being economy. We need businesses to grow, to create those good, well-paying jobs that will enable us to reinvest in initiatives to eradicate poverty. We also rely on businesses and, of course, their workers to pay taxes that our public services rely on. That's why there has never been a conflict, to my mind, between supporting our economy to grow in line with our net zero ambitions and introducing policies such as progressive taxation, which enables us to reduce poverty. Both go hand in hand as part of that well-being economy many of us support. We also need some government regulation of business. The business community itself recognises that an unrestricted market is incompatible with the well-being of our people, our communities, and of course, our environment. But the balance here needs to be right. A number of business organisations have expressed concern in recent months about the balance government has been striking. In fact, they have called for a reset of the relationship between business and I'm happy to start. I want to do a deposit return scheme. I remain committed to this scheme as a way to increase recycling, to reduce litter on our streets and our beaches, and help achieve our net zero ambitions. But we recognise certain government on that this week, but it has not come. At the same time, I and the Circular Economy Minister have heard the concern of business, particularly about the scheme's readiness for launch this August. And as a result, we will now delay the launch to March 2024. I'm pleased that has got your support around the Chamber. This provides 10 months for businesses to get ready. We'll use that additional time, of course, to work with business and Circularity Scotland.
I had given a bit of that. It is getting quite noisy.
That's okay, Presiding Officer. They are really excited about the policy perspective that I'm bringing forward to this Chamber today. It's not a problem. I will read the political game, of course, to work with business Circular and to address concerns with the scheme and ensure a successful also develop and the scheme and to support some businesses, quality in particular. The Circular Economy Minister, of course, will provide further details to Parliament this week on this package and our engagement with the UK Government over the critical decisions now that we need them to make to allow the scheme to proceed in terms of that exemption of the Internal Market Act. The second step relates to the Scottish Government's consultation on restrictions to alcohol advertising. The aim of this consultation to reduce the harm caused by alcohol to children admirable. It's one of the proposals have caused challenges on multiple fronts. I've therefore instructed my officials to take these ideas back to the drawing board, work with industry and, of course, crucially, public health stakeholders to agree a new set of proposals. I believe that all of us want to reduce the harm caused by alcohol, particularly to young people, but without undermining Scotland's world-class drinks industry or tourism sector. I'm hopeful that by taking a fresh look at this issue, we can find a way forward which achieves both of these crucial aims. Finally, I've written to key business group and asked them to engage in urgent discussions with the Scottish Government to for Scottish businesses. These discussions will be chaired jointly by the Cabinet Secretary for the Wellbeing Economy and a representative of the sector. The discussions will explore, amongst other things, government support of businesses and communities using the policy we do have, including non-domestic rates. I've asked the co-chairs to report back to me with initial thoughts this summer. The 3 steps, all, I trust, will be welcomed individually by Scotland's business community, but I hope that collectively they also send a broader signal about this government's approach to business. This government knows that Scotland can only be successful if our businesses are successful, and so as First Minister, at my door will always be open to you. We might not always agree, but I will always give you a fair hearing, and I will seek to address your concerns wherever possible. All 3 of the missions that I'm setting out today depend on the thriving business sector in Scotland, so the government I lead will do everything we can to help you to prosper. The third and last of our missions, which is based on community, is to focus on the delivery of key public services. For example, the NHS and social care, schools and childcare, the police and justice, and public transport. The NHS in the last 3 years has faced the greatest challenge in its 74-year existence. Its staff have performed phase that we invest in the NHS to recover from the pandemic, so that over the next 3 years, waiting lists will fall. The outcomes for cancer treatment will improve. We'll continue to support primary care. We'll invest more in general practice, particularly in the most disadvantaged areas of the country. We will also improve mental health and welfare support. We'll secure better access to NHS dentistry. We're also committed to improving social care services and reducing delayed discharge. I know well the workforce challenges that the adult social care sector in particular faces. And that is why I will commit to a timetable that sets out how this government will get to £10 an hour for adult care immediately. I want to send out to the sector that we are absolutely serious about improving pay, about improving terms and conditions for those who care for our most vulnerable. And a key way of improving consistency of care is, of course, through the National Care Service, in a way that commands consensus amongst our key partners, including trade unions, including local government. Yesterday, I confirmed that we would ask and seek from Parliament an extension to the scrutiny process for the legislation that will help us to build that consensus. The aim of the National Care Service legislation, ensuring that consistently high standard of care right across the country, is one which attracts wide support. My hope is that by taking slightly more time away, we can agree and achieve. We'll also continue to ensure that staff in our health services are valued and that they're fairly paid. As things stand, Scotland is the only part of the UK no NHS work gone on strike in the last year. That's something I'm proud of and I'm grateful for. The Scottish Government will soon enter into talks with junior doctors in the hope of arriving at a fair settle for them. And as well as supporting our NHS and care services, we'll also continue to invest in other key public services. In the justice system, the backlog of court cases caused by the pandemic is already decreasing. It will continue to fall during the next 3 years. We'll continue to implement important improvements in our justice system, such as better handling of cases involving sexual offences. We will improve childcare for school-aged children. I'll accelerate the expansion of childcare for 1 and 2-year-olds. We'll continue to focus on closing the poverty-related attainment gap in schools while raising the attainment for all. We'll improve experiences and outcomes for children, for young people and their families who use and need that additional support for learning. And as part of our efforts to improve school education, we'll increase the availability of internationally comparable data on Scotland's educational performance. Scotland participates in the widely respected PISA studies. We also know that we will also now apply to rejoin 2 major international statistics systems, Trends in International Science and Progress in International Reading Literacy. We'll also make our public transport system more accessible. We'll make it more available. We'll make it more affordable. And as an important part of that, I can confirm today that the 6-month pilot to remove peak time fares from ScotRail will start in October of this year. The evidence of this pilot and a wider fair fares review will allow us to bring forward further targeted measures from next year onwards to ensure that the cost of transport are more fairly shared. And as part of that commitment to active travel, we'll also ensure our investment to deliver more places where people can walk, where they can wheel and cycle safely for day-to-day increases. We'll double the charge point network for electric vehicles to at least 6,000 and increase the number of zero-emission buses on Scotland's road. We'll deliver 6 new major vessels to serve Scotland's ferry network. The final point that I want to highlight here is that local government is a vital partner in delivering the service that all of us rely on. We intend to agree and implement a new deal for local government to help us to work together more effectively. Part of that is about giving local authorities far more discretion on sources of funding. As we have previously confirmed, subject to Parliament's approval, we will legislate to give councils the power to apply a local visitor levy on overnight stays. And as we launched a consultation yesterday on measures which will give local authorities additional powers to increase the rate of council tax on second and empty property. Has come about as a result of effective work in the Scottish and local government, and I hope it demonstrates to local authorities that we see them as an essential partner in helping to achieve our ambitions for Scotland in years to come. Officer, when I was elected, government is easy. It is not. I would not offer empty promises in the face of really difficult challenges. The document we're publishing today is built on the idea of one partnership that recognise the social constraints we operate under. It's realistic about the social, the economic, the environmental challenge. That realism is also balanced by optimism about our ability to meet those challenges. Scotland is a land of opportunity. I'm very proud of that fact. I'm proud to be a product of that. My grandparents came to this country in the 1960s, barely speaking English, little money in their pockets, despite the challenges they faced, and at times hostility they faced due to their background. They overcame those barriers and provided a life for their children and for their grandchildren that I will forever be grateful for. It's my responsibility as First Minister to ensure every family in Scotland has that equality of opportunity, regardless of their background or where they live in Scotland. I'm optimistic we can achieve that equality of opportunity, and the 3 missions that I have set out today will determine the priorities of the government that I lead for the rest of this parliamentary session and help us to achieve that. Together, we will be focused on the delivery. We will ensure that we have an affordable, ambitious measures in place which protect our environment, which protect business prosperity, they improve people's well-being, and they reduce poverty. They will ensure the actions we take over the next 3 years stand Scotland in good stead for the next decade to come, and they will use our present, very significant strengths to deliver a fresh start for Scotland.
Thank you. The